it's Michelle Nesky, the Posh PA, back again to talk PA school interviews, and today I'm going to tell you how to ace your multiple mini style interview for PA school. That's right, in my previous video I talked about PA school interview formats, and MMI can be one of the tougher ones to prepare for. So I wanted to share with you my strategy for success. So if you haven't already, smash the subscribe button. I'm here every week dropping new tips to help you get into PA school, become a successful student, and a fulfilled practicing PA. Okay, I've heard it called the dreaded multiple mini interview before because it can be harder to prepare for. The very first thing you need to know is the format of a multiple mini interview, and that includes stations. You will be given a prompt or a scenario or a writing sample, and you will be given that beforehand. You will have about 2 minutes to think about how you're going to address this problem, and then when you go in the room you have about 6 minutes or so to answer or perform or engage in whatever scenario is going to be in there. The number of stations depends on the program. There can be anywhere from 5 to 10 stations that you will have to do throughout the course of this interview. So it's really important to practice these types of questions and these types of scenarios in that format so you can really develop good time management and not rush through your answers and really ensure that you're using the appropriate amount of time. So that's the first thing to think about. The second thing is that these questions can seem very off-putting at times, like, what? That's an ethical question, or whatever it is. You have to remember that these questions and these scenarios are being used to assess your problem-solving skills, your critical thinking, your ability to react on your feet and stay calm in any situation, and really to develop a thoughtful process when going through each scenario. So remember that, right? It's not necessarily about something that you choose or something, it's how you decide to get there. So remember that. But I'm going to give you the strategy that works best in really any type of MMI scenario, and that is the ABCDE Strategy for Success for your MMI. So let's talk about A. So in any prompt that you get, A is assessing the problem. You really want to understand what the problem is that you're being presented with. If that's a scenario, a patient-based issue, if it's a writing sample, and really start to brainstorm ideas. You want to start thinking about how you're going to solve this problem. What are the potential outcomes of this scenario or situation? So that actually leads me to C. Consider your consequences. So first, you're going to assess the problem. What is the main problem we're dealing with here? 2, you're going to brainstorm ideas on how you're going to solve this problem. But first, you're going to also consider what the consequences are of each of those ideas, right? So you want to think about what the outcomes might be from this scenario so that you can then D, develop ideas and strategies to be able to overcome that problem. And then E, explain your reasoning. Okay, so that is the ABCDE method and strategy for tackling MMI interviews. If you approach each prompt with this structure, it will help you develop a thoughtful answer that allows you to think critically in really any situation you're presented. Now, a lot of times, people get a little bit nervous or stressed when they get a question that's presented or a scenario that's presented to them that feels ethically challenging, right? So it's challenging some ethical integrity. And I'm going to give you an example of one that I have heard and have used on mock interviews that I have done in the past. So an example would be if you are presented with a prompt where you are walking down the street and you witness a mother and a child in a car accident. Who would you save first and why? Okay, now, the very first thing a lot of people want to do in this scenario is choose somebody. Well, the very first answer I hear a lot of times is, well, I would choose the child because the child is younger and I think that the mother would want the child to have a longer life or whatever it is, right? So a lot of times people jump right into the answer of choosing who they would save because that's the question that was presented, right? But think about it. put yourself in that situation at that moment. If you were walking down the street and you witnessed a car accident with a mother and a child, who would you save first and why? Well, you can't answer that question until you know more information. What is the very first thing you're gonna do? Very first thing you're gonna do is make sure the scene is safe and someone has called 911, right? Because you're not gonna approach that area unless you know it's safe and somebody's calling for help. If you see that it's safe and you go to that car and you see the mother and the child, well, who you're gonna save really depends on who is more injured, right? So you really can't answer this question until you have all the facts. And what people want to hear in this scenario is not who would you choose, it's how you're gonna choose. It's not about who you choose, it's about how you decide to get there. Because that is what problem-based learning is, and that's how we solve problems in medicine. We wanna look at the situation and really think about what the causes were, what the potential outcomes would be, and then decide on a course of action, and then explain to somebody why we did it, right? ABCDE, just went through that again. So that's just one example of how you can use this strategy to really help you tackle questions that seem ethically challenging or off-putting. Now, there are also some other questions during an MMI interview that may be off the wall, like, if you were a color, what would it be and why? Or if you were a tree, or if you were a superhero, what power would you have, right? Those are more personality-based questions designed to learn more about you as a person and as a thinker. And so if somebody asked me, if I was a superhero, what superpower would I want to have? I immediately would answer time travel, okay? And I would give a very detailed explanation on why time travel would be important to me and how that would help me as a future PA and use up the allotted time that I would have. So you have a little fun with those types of questions. But overall, the ABCDE method is really going to help you think about these questions in a different way. Before you answer, it is okay to think about what you are going to say in that process, okay? A lot of times people will ask me, if there's somebody else in the room, can I ask them a question? Well, it really depends on the station. If it's a patient scenario and you're interacting with the patient, then obviously yes, right? You are going to interact with that person, ask questions, and decide what you need to do. Sometimes it will be a patient scenario and you will walk into the room and it will be nothing to do about the medical situation, but everything to do about the patient being either angry or upset or stressed and how you're going to manage conflict, stay calm and less emotional during that time, and how you can really think and brainstorm about options to help this patient, or think of the consequences that may happen if the patient doesn't get what they need, right? So ABCDE, assess the situation, brainstorm ideas, consider the consequences, decide on a course of action, and explain your reasoning. It really can work with almost any type of MMI situation. Now, I do these interviews all the time with students to practice, and I really encourage you to practice these types of questions out loud, whether that's with a friend, a family member, a PA coach like myself, or one of the members of the Posh PA team. We are here to help you, because the best way that you can prepare for this style of interview, and really any style of interview, is to answer questions out loud as much as possible. Putting yourself in that situation really helps you prepare for that big day, because it makes you a little less nervous. You kind of know what to expect. You have these strategies, right? So we really want you to shine on this interview, and the best way to do that is to practice using ABCDE in your MMI scenarios. I hope this video is going to help you slay the day on your PA school upcoming interview if it's MMI. Be sure to subscribe, because I'll be tackling other types of interviews on this channel very soon.